after you'd gone through your rehab for your crash, and you were sat on a motorbike again, what stopped you from, or what prevented you from kind of worrying that this might happen again, because you're on a motorbike again?
I mean, I've got to admit, I don't have to race since my big, injury, but I suppose I still managed to take risks, like that slide video. You have to literally roll the dice a bit to do the limit is yours. You know that it can go wrong, but I think I've thought a lot about this because of the teaching thing has taught me that people have different levels of self-preservation, but it's also calculated risk. It's the same thing. Some people can, that I'm teaching, I notice that they'll be miles away from the danger area, miles away, but they're still going, no, I'm going to crash. And I'll show them on the video, and I literally explain to them that, dude, it's like you're standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon, but 3 steps away from the edge, screaming, going, come on, we can take 2 more steps, stand right on the edge. Yeah. Really, I think that's what races have, is that they can, lap after lap, take the next little step. It's calculated risk. We don't want to hurt ourselves either, but I think it's step by step by step. We're willing to take the step closer to see what happens, little bit.
But even after you've hurt yourself, you're still operating with the same mindset. We can go this far. We can still push it this close.
Well, I mean, I'm 51 now, and I don't want to crash, because I think the big one is there's 2. I've got to go to work, and if I don't go to work, I don't get paid, and I can't pay for my little family. So there's that hanging over me. But also, I've got a bunch of rods and screws in my back, and I don't want to. It won't break, but I don't want to break below it or above it, And because I might not get walking again. I had one chance already. But I think so. Before I get on the bike, I go, jeepers, I know I've got to go. For example, I've got a really fast client. I know I've got to go 100%. Because I'll ride a stock bike with a guy that's got a built super bike, and that's not easy. You have to take a few risks to make the bike do it, if you're lucky, So I worry about it as I get on the bike. My heart's going, oh. But when I'm on the bike, just takes little lap by lap by lap, and it's exactly what I said before. If I can see where to do it, I'll keep taking those steps more. I don't want to crash, though. Really, I can't afford to.
Well, and presumably, what was Kirsten's attitude when you were better and you then said you were going to start riding motorbikes again? Was she, yeah, that's fine, or don't you dare?
No, she knew that I'd had this massive wake-up call, and it's what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, meaning working life is build something. She was happy that I was focused on doing something, because I was lost after, during retirement. Those first years I was totally lost, looking for something but didn't know what it was. And she was happy that I found it, that we were writing this book, and that I had to ride to do the she knows I'm experienced, and she knows what I've just explained to you, that I don't want to crash, that I only do calculated risks, best I can. She trusts me.
What did you do in between retiring and then your accident? Did you do much work, or were you just looking out the window?
Well, the racing had gone well enough that I owned my house in Andorra. I owned a house in Oz, and I had a little bit of cash that I could, when I say a little bit, good enough to buy, a third of a house, third of a normal family house. I was playing with buying and selling property enough to run the family. If I did one a year, that kind of ran the little family, and all I was doing was, really, I was just wasting time, because I was lost. I was chasing, still in that racing mentality, chasing something, adrenaline, what shall I do? I mean, I was just looking the wrong way is the easiest way to say it. I was looking for something and I didn't realize it was my wife and kids sitting right next to me, you know. I don't know why boys do that. They have a massive wake-up call to realize what the important thing is, but that's what I was doing. I was wasting those years, you know. I can't even remember everything I did in that time because it was nothing really of value, you know, apart from, built an apartment that we still use now, but I rode Red Bull Romaniacs and, you know, got into it, but I realized that the top 8 boys at that time, I couldn't beat them, you know. So I might as well, then I did a deal to do track manager for the owner of Martin, who's still a good friend now. The first year went really well. It's a massive challenge, you know, a physical challenge, but a month in the mountains, marking out a 200-kilometer course through the hills, you know. A massive challenge, and that's kind of what I wanted, but only because I was lost, I've got to admit, you know.
So how did Moto Voodoo come along? Because it's not a normal kind of teaching method. It's it is unique, isn't it?
So I'd started. Steve Plater gave me a call and said, "Did you want to?" In 2008, I'd so kind of been doing it a year or so before I had this big accident at Romaniacs on an enduro bike, hit on my car. And so I'd been teaching and about a year, and I realized that there was a lot of people that had been taught what I thought was a load of bullshit. You know, I was like horrified that they'd paid money to be led down the garden path. I was like, no. And those people that had paid that money and learned the wrong way were harder to get going because they had to unlearn and then on another way. And I was like, so myself, I know that Steve Brogan, Neil Hodgson, Steve Plater, we all felt the same, that, oh my God. And then when I was lying in bed, I had a long 11 months to get walking well enough to work again. It's a long time. And I had a long time to think about what to do with the rest of my life, you know, because I was pretty much ashamed from retiring from racing till the accident. And the thing that I was passionate about, and I knew that I had valuable info, was everything I learnt from a teenager till their racing, you know. So what I wanted to do was think how to make it simple and like a modern version of how to go fast on track. And that's what it is, you know. So it took, I'll be straight up, it took probably 3 years of teaching to learn how to put it into words to teach people, you know, because there's a lot of moments that one stands out at me, but there's dozens of them. I'm going through the chicane at Le Mans trying to teach a young guy how to go faster, and he's going to crash, you know, and he's using just his arms to change direction through the chicane. And basically, I couldn't tell him the answer. I had to go, okay, you know, when I said, don't do that anymore, he said, how do you do it? I had to go away, think about it, write it, and then come back and put it. And that's what learning how to teach is, I think, is.
Now you've done quite a decent series with other racers about their greatest race. So Simon Crafar, what was your greatest race?
I mean, on paper, it's Donington, you know, and I love Donington as a track. It's not forgiving, which I think it's one of the things I love about a good track is it's not easy. It's not forgiving, you know. If you get it wrong, a lot of people high side there. And I managed to win, you know, my only race in the big class, you know, 500 Grand Prix. But it's not my greatest race in my mind because it was like Jamie Whittam said about his, it was easy, you know. Everything came together. The bike, tyres, me, all worked that day, and we managed to run away. Where I loved at the end of that year, Phillip Island. I went from 7th. I think I was qualified on second row, but I went from 7th to 2nd. And, you know, Phillip Island is intimidating. The first time I rode it in 98, I went away from there. I rode it on an OWO1. It was a 6-hour race or a 4-hour, something like that. And I went away from there going, I don't know if I've got what it takes to go fast around there. It was scary, like 200k corners multiple times, and it took me till about 94 where I had enough experience to go back there, World Superbikes, and go, I can do this,
Yeah.
And this is part of it. Phillip Island, that day, I did stuff that I dreamed about, all people that love motorcycles have dreamt about. Go through those 200km/h corners with the front going like this on the way in and drifting on the way out. And you know that you're right on the edge of really hurting yourself, but it's working. It's working. I'm doing it, and to live that, I'll never forget. Like the last 2 turns, being able to go and then all the way and then up over the hill with the back hanging out was incredible. So that's a part of that race. But all my family come to that at Phillip Island. It's the closest trip for them, 3-hour flight, from New Zealand. So I had them all there, and the crowd wanted Mick to win. Mick Doohan was the legend. So and you felt it because all the people were saying, "Oh, we want Mick," but I was kind of like the adopted Aussie, or whatever, however you want to put it. I was second favourite, But so I get not a great start. I'm 7th on the first lap, and by mid-race, I'm still 7th. And then I just kept pushing, and I managed to pass, without exaggeration, guys that are my heroes, like there was in there, I remember there's, I can't remember what order or where I was around, but it was like Kaczynski, there's Max Biaggi, and then I know Anorik Abe, and then the hardest 2 were the last 2 I got past, which was Barros, then Crivier, and the 3 of us at the end of the front straight, Phillip Island, I've got a photo of it, and nobody wants to break, like the 3 of us in the line. And like, I'm not exaggerating when I say they're my heroes, they're like legends. So I managed to get past all of them, then leave that group behind and halfway bridge the gap to Mick. And then to ride like that, like I was explaining, the front, the rear, everything's working. Then to stand on the podium, I could see the crowd were rapt, really happy, like Mick had won the World Championship as well that day, massive crowd invasion. I'm standing on there, amazing experience, sea of people, and then I look down and see my grandparents, my sister, my mum, dad. Like, to me, that's the best race experience ever.